everybody. Welcome to the Sharon and Joe Show. My name is Sharon.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joe. Happy 4th of July Eve.
Yes, if I put this video out the day I'm telling you I'm going to, the day I'm supposed to, it's the day before the 4th of July, and I hope everybody has a great day. So originally, when I first was going to make this video, well, I told Joe, was it yesterday or the day before, that I wasn't going to have you on the channel. And I think I hurt your feelings when I said that.
You did a little bit because I look forward to it. You guys, we do our videos usually every Saturday, Sunday today, but every Saturday evening is our time. And we want to share it with you too, you know, so every Saturday, it's a chance for me to give back. It's a chance to listen to other people and their comments and stuff like that. So definitely kind of, you shot an arrow through my heart a little bit, but I'm okay.
Sorry, I think you thought I was like firing you or something from the show, but there's still a Sharon and Joe show. But the reason that I originally was thinking that is because I wrote a community post the other day, and I was telling you in the community post that on Monday, so tomorrow, I guess today, sorry, because it's Sunday now, I was going to put a video out talking about something I'm going through, which is, I don't want to say extreme depression, maybe extreme depression. I've been going through a really bad time, and it's lasted about 6 weeks now. If you listen to my channel regularly, you know that generally I'm positive, I have a good attitude, and that's real. That's how I really am. If you know me in real life, that I'm not fake on the channel. But the last 6 weeks or so, being so down, it's affected my life drastically. I think I missed the last 2 full weeks. I'd have to go back to check, but I think it's been roughly 2 weeks I didn't put a video out. Before that, it was kind of spotty, and I have a video coming out pretty soon that I'll be talking about later, and that is the video with someone who listens to the channel. So I have that. There's a bunch of things that I'm supposed to be doing, and I find myself just like I'm trying to run through water. It's horrible. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit today because that's life, and that's part of what can happen to all of us, and not just if you're dealing with a narcissist, but a lot of the stuff is kind of connected to the narcissist in a way. So I thought tonight, originally I was going to do it by myself, but Joe and I can talk a little bit about that, because I know there's other people out there that are going through this too, and you're definitely not alone. For me, I now, who likes this, right? This sounds stupid, but emotional pain is just, it's unbearable to me. Like, I'll joke around with Joe, it's not really a joke. I'll have like a pinprick of pain, and I can't stand it. And then to be in depression for 6 weeks is so unlike me. It's been horrible.
Yeah, that's something I could definitely relate to as far as the depression part of it, because I struggled my entire life with that. And for somebody like you, though, it doesn't fit you well. It's just not in your card. It's not in your personality. And it's been tough to watch too, because you know, I don't always know the solution. Well, the solution is always God. It points to that way through prayer and stuff. But like there's certain things, you know, I'm afraid if I try to get you out of it, I could hurt you more. If I say something wrong, so I kind of like not walking on eggshells, but just doing my best to be positive myself and to try to get you out of your own skin. You know.
Yeah, that's true. It's been so difficult, you guys. I feel like there's this, like, my main attitude, the main way that I feel is horrible, like so down, so negative. And every once in a while I'll take a walk with my dogs, and I'll be happy for that half hour. Or Joe and I will be talking, and I'll be happy for that 15 minutes or whatever it is. But then instead of being like, generally my attitude is pretty even keel, like I'm always like this, and now it's like I'm going up and down, and it's been so bad. So I thought we'd just talk about that a little bit tonight, because the reason I'm telling you this is for twofold. One, I want you to know, if you're going through this, you are so not alone. Like, you're not alone. I think a lot of us, in any situation in life that's negative, you feel alone. Like you always say, Joe, terminal uniqueness. Like that's how we feel. Like it's just me. For me to be depressed for 6 weeks, so, like, and it's still ongoing, is so unnatural to me, and it's terrible. So I want, if you're going through this, to tell you you are definitely not alone. But also, the other reason I want to tell you this is because I'm not the type of person who's just going to be like, well, I guess I'm just depressed now, and this is how my life is, and life sucks. There's no way I'm going to do that. I'm going to get myself out of it, no matter how long it takes. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit on the channel as the weeks go by. Now, hopefully, I'll tell you next week, oh my gosh, you guys, it's so much better. And something amazing happened today. I'm just going to tease a little teeny bit. something absolutely amazing happened today with Paris, my daughter. And Paris is going to come on the channel with me, probably the next video out. She's going to make a video with me. We're going to talk to you about rescuing a baby rabbit from the roof of the neighbor's shed. So we'll talk about that in the next few days. But before that, let's just talk a little bit about maybe what has been bothering me, so then we can talk about the solution before we end the video.
You know, it's funny because you're such a positive person. You carry yourself so well that it's. I know you, so I know that when there's something bothering you, for the most part, like, you're still able to carry yourself pretty positive, even being depressed. That's how positive energy, like, that's how much energy in a positive way that you carry through your system. On the inside, you know, you could be dying, but you still, I don't know, you just have this aura about you that's still like, you still look for the light, you know, the silver lining in the cloud, so to speak.
I'm glad you said that, because I don't feel that way. You know what I mean? I feel rotten. But you know what? Like, you're right. Like, Joe and I, we're similar in so many ways. And of course we have our differences. And one of the big differences that we have is our general attitude. For Joe, and he's not like a depressive like jerk or anything, but his general everyday feeling is that life is not good. My general everyday feeling is life is fantastic and I feel blessed to be alive.
Yeah, I have and maybe I got this from my mother, who wasn't the healthiest of people at all. Although, God bless her, she did a great job raising 2 kids by herself.
Well, she did raise at least one great son. Although, no offense to your brother, I like him too. But
yeah, my brother's awesome. He's really got his shit together. But you know, she was raised poor, and man, worked her way through education and stuff to get out of the ghetto. But she used to tell me, like, all the time, like, life is like a jungle, you know, and it's the weak people, unfortunately, will get weeded out. They'll get eaten up. But she did tell me too, like, she used to say, because of my size, she always used to say, because I used to play football and stuff, like, you make sure you're there for the weak ones, you know. But I always thought that I think of myself more of a realist than, like, if you look at nature, and Sharon will explain this tomorrow what happened with the rabbit, but it's like, I don't want to say kill or be killed, but survival of the fittest. And if you're not fit, spiritually, mentally, physically, the world would kick your ass. So I always have that mentality, even like I'm getting back into training, like physical training, the way I used to, is it takes discipline and motivation, self-motivation, to like stay strong, because the world is a tough place to be, and you got to be tough.
you know, you just said that self-motivation to be strong. I think that's what you said. Yeah. That's true. And I feel that way too. I am extremely self-motivated. I mean, you guys, if you see me, I usually, if I'm around the house, you know, not if I'm talking to somebody, I always have like a headset in, because I'm usually listening to something like positive, a motivational video. Like, I'm really into that.
You're an entrepreneur too. Like, you just wake up at 2:30 in the morning to do your YouTube videos and spend hours like training and focusing on anything that you wanted to do. Like, you're self-motivated, absolutely 100%, which is really good if you're depressed, because then with God, there's definitely a solution, and this will pass.
I feel that way. I do. And I'm going to talk about that as the weeks go on. But maybe we could talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on.
Yeah, let's talk about like what led you up. What was it, one thing or a culmination of things? And part of the reason why Sharon didn't want to do this with me, I think it was because it was personal to me, and she thought that I might get my feelings hurt or whatever. But I kind of knew already, because you did talk about it. And thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Well, I'd never talk behind her back. Like, I would never say something, like anything I say on the channel, like, you could hear. So I just wanted to let you know I would never do something like that. But he's right. There are a few things connected to Joe. But I do have inside me the belief, the knowledge, and I have a strong faith in God that it is going to get better. I'm just hoping it gets better on the quicker side. So this started, you guys, about, like I said, about 6 weeks ago, and that coincided with the sale of my house in New Hampshire. Because listen to the channel, you know that leaving the house, I left the house. I left with my kids and Joe, and like early in the morning on Christmas, it was Christmas Eve or Christmas Day.
It was Christmas Eve, because we celebrated Christmas Day. It was Christmas Eve, and we celebrated Christmas Day at, well, our house, but like a house in Ohio instead of New Hampshire.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's true. Our first Christmas together. Oh.
Yeah. We still had the U-Haul truck, you guys, out in the driveway, And we started moving stuff in probably about 8 o'clock in the
But
morning.
that was, remember, the police were like, my ex was trying to get the police to arrest me. It was
Yeah.
a very interesting Christmas. But
Yeah, that would have been crazy if you had an Amber Alert out for you. That was just nuts.
yeah, it was nuts. But we did that, and I abandoned my house. I know, like, some of you might be thinking, it's just a house. Like, what's your problem? I loved my house. Like, I loved this house. It was a beautiful house. And I get it. Like, it is just a house. But I didn't want to leave it. I wanted to keep my house. That's what I wanted to do. But I couldn't keep the house because I couldn't afford it. And even if I had the money to afford it, if my ex knew that I was going to divorce him, he would have moved back into the house. And I have to be careful how I say things on YouTube. So I'm going to try to say this the best possible way. I don't think one of us would have survived that. Like, I mean, sorry, I don't think both of us would have survived that. And I mean that. The way that he was, the way that he stalked me, harassed me, broke into the house, if he forced his way in that house, it would have been really ugly. So I had to leave. I didn't have a choice. I felt like I didn't have a choice anyways. But that whole like year and a half when I had that house, first my ex didn't put it for sale for a long time. It was a whole mess. Finally it sold. The most difficult part of my house selling, you guys, is, you guys know I'm a big animal person, and I had some of my animals buried in that backyard. I think I told you this, Joe. I was tempted to ask you to dig some of them up, and I know how morbid and gross that sounds.
What is it called? What do they call that?
Like exhume, yeah.
Exhumerate or something? Exhume?
Just exhume, yeah. Exhume the bodies, yeah.
Yeah, and I knew, like, logically speaking, you knew that it was just the remains, just like a human being. It's like the spirit inside is what makes him alive. It was kind of hard for me to understand the whole thing. I was like, the toughest part is over. Like, you took your kids and you got the hell out of a trap, like prison, and the morning is already over, but it was hard to see you go through that. And then I thought about it, and I have empathy. I was just like, wow, I'm sorry that happened.
Well, the thing is, you guys, like, I get it. It's just a house. But it wasn't just the house. There was so much connected with that. And guys.
So the animals are one thing. Like, what else?
Yeah,
I try. See, sometimes when Sharon's in this mood, I make things worse. I try to tell her, like, she said all the times that she had in the house, and I was like, well, with the narcissist, like, there were no good times. But Sharon also raised her children and was an at-home mom and took them through school herself. Like, she was the professor, the teacher, and all the times they spent studying and learning and going on field trips and stuff. And I was like, but that was you. Like, you created those times, your experience, and your children are with you now. And it was tough.
It was very difficult, you guys. And then when the house finally sold, and I won't talk too much about this tonight, but I am going to go into this further in another video, because I want to tell you some things that you really need to know if you're wanting to divorce a narcissist in the process, whatever it is. I got destroyed in this divorce. Now, luckily, thank you to Jesus, I got what I had to have. Like, that is true. But I did not have a good attorney. My ex had a better attorney, and I lost financially in the divorce in a major way. And that started hitting me. I started getting really angry. Like, so there were things connected with the house.
Were you thinking, like, I should have done this? Was like regrets of how you did it, or were you just pissed off in general? And yeah, because I get pissed off at your ex too. I don't want to say what I want to do to him. I'm not, but he's a little bitch.
It's not so much that I regret things. I don't regret things. What I regret is what happened to me when I was not in an emotionally good space. I didn't have anyone on my side, like, advocating for me.
We have to touch base on that, Sharon. We got to do something in a video, because we're not in emotionally in a good space when we're in the process of getting a divorce.
No.
Like, we're not thinking logically.
Particularly something as contentious as divorcing a narcissist, because you're not, and I have friends who have been divorced, and being divorced isn't the way it is with a narcissist.
No.
And that, yeah, and you're right, Joe. Like, you're not in your right frame of mind. And a lot of times, like, you had this problem, I had this problem, probably many of you, we didn't have anybody on our side, like, nobody. So we were just, imagine if you're in an emergency situation, you're going to be flailing around and making mistakes just to get out of there. that's what happened.
We
and
did
it
have each other,
affected-
though.
Yeah,
that
yes,
that
we
was
did.
one thing. Like, there was one blessing, I think.
Oh
That
my God! If we didn't have each other, like
both of us.
yeah.
Like, it was a miracle, you guys. It was just a miracle how it happened. And, I don't want to spend too much time on this because you said you're going to do another video. But so this is one thing, right, that you're kind of like totally bummed about, like, to say the least.
It was very difficult for me, you guys. And then around the exact same time, Joe's oldest son moved back into the house. And, Joe and I are putting a family together, right? We have 4 kids together.
It's gelling. It's going good, guys.
Yeah, it is going really well. His oldest is going through his own psychological issues. And when he came into the house, I wasn't happy that he came into the house. And that was for reasons that we can maybe talk about another time. There were valid reasons why I didn't want him to be. But the thing is, I always felt for you, Joe, like always. And I know you had, would you want to talk about any, just lightly as problems so I can talk about my reaction to it?
So if you've heard us in the past, if you have, like, I'm a recovered alcoholic and an addict, and my son was very much like me in as far as the road that he's taking. And he called me about 2 months ago. He's living with his mother, which is my ex. And, we talked for about a good half an hour, and he was serious about, like, getting sober and doing what he had to do. And he came back here, and the first week it was all good, and then he started kind of slacking, and then it was just like, it ain't working, and it was really tough to watch. It broke my heart. Anybody that's familiar with addiction or alcoholism, it's life or death. Usually speaking, for us kind of people, like, it's either prison or death, or by the miracle, recovery. So having him come back in at 22 years old, he's emotionally probably 16. Me understanding the disease, Sharon trying to understand as best as possible, but you got some kid sleeping on the couch, like, home all day. It just was tough, and I had to tell him, we had to talk, and he's going to be going, thank God, in a week. We're talking, we're on good terms. He just knew that he wasn't holding up his end of the bargain. That was tough for Sharon, and thank you for being patient with me and dealing with that.
You don't even have to say that. Like, I understand. I have kids too. It was a real struggle, you guys, to see a 22-year-old man, like, just not living his life in a good way. It was
heartbreaking.
And it was like he was always there, always on the couch. Like, it was bad. And nobody really wanted, initially, not that I want to say no one didn't want him there. That's not true. The family, the other 3 kids, and Joe and I were at a really good point, like the day before he came. And then it was like, I just saw it collapsing on top of itself, on top of other things that were happening. And, I wasn't too happy with Joe at the time either, right, with him coming in, because that wasn't something we discussed. It was a problem. Then
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
I didn't do it the right way. I talked to Sharon about it, but I was put in a position the next day where it was just like I thought I had to say yes. And the one thing is, though, that part of the agreement was, listen, if he's not doing what he should be doing, he's got to go. And I understand, and enabling him may prevent him from hitting rock bottom. Now, he stopped drinking, but he's still, like, smoking weed. And I tried to explain to him that the alcohol, it was just a symptom, that the root of the problem was, for an alcoholic or an addict, is selfishness, or self-centeredness, egocentric, self-condemnation, self-pity, and there's a way out. But so at least he's not drinking for now. He's hanging out with his old friends and stuff. But it was tough for Sharon and I. But he'll be going in a week. What else is going on?
The same time that your older one came home, your younger one, like, nosedived a little bit as well.
He took a step backwards. He graduated from high school. I was so proud of him too, because the only time that he got on, like, the merit roll or the honor roll was when he was here with me, and actually Sharon too, and because the ex wasn't in the way of enabling him to do whatever he wanted when he wanted to do it. So he actually craves discipline. And I was so proud of him. But when he graduated, it was like, okay, it's time to slack off and go to graduation parties, not get drunk or anything like that, but just do nothing because he was going to the military. He's almost there, to the point where he's going to be going into the Army. But I think he's trying to live it up before he has to grow up.
he'll watch TV for like 10 hours a day in the middle of the house, and Joe and I don't have a bedroom. We have like an area of the house near the TV room, so it was like they're just there,
And
like
he's almost-
vegging out. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
he's
And it
almost
was
out.
difficult when I was already feeling down because I felt like I like never had privacy. I never had a moment. I never could breathe, or you know what I mean? Like
I feel like I feel so awful while you're saying this, but it's good for me to hear because it's going to help me understand more.
it's not to make you feel bad, Joe. Like
No.
there's nothing I'm telling him, by the way, that he doesn't
I
know.
know already. I just like hearing it though. I feel humiliated in a way, like, wow, how did I let this happen? And then, but it's also helping me to understand where you were and how you're coming out of it right now. I mean, actually listening better, which is good.
I do have to like step in here. You really don't need to feel that way, Joe. Like Joe and I are an open book with each other. We're living our life together, and we're real. Like if I say I hid this from Joe, I'd have a huge resentment towards him, and it would be very unhealthy for our relationship.
Resentment is a rusty container it sits in too.
Yeah,
It would
it's
hurt
true.
you, it hurt us. So, yeah. So we got the your house selling, leaving. No, we brought all the animals, but like leaving the ones that passed on there. What else we talked about? We could talk about my oldest one being
Yeah.
here,
And then
the
the
youngest one kind of being a slacker. And he's usually a good kid. Him and Sharon,
Oh
like
yes, I love him.
he loves Sharon, and I know Sharon's crazy about him, but he was kind of slacking. So we got that. Was there anything else that was kind of?
The other thing that came in like at this exact same time was your down attitude. Because like for me, like when I'm like guys, I'm usually, and this like I don't, this is how I am, so it's fine. I'm usually, although my kids are pretty positive, especially my daughter, but I'm usually the positive force. I'm the one that gets people going. And so there were times when I would be really down and I would try to talk to you and you would get like quick or short, and then that made me feel worse because that like there was zero comfort, and then I like had nothing to do, nowhere to go because the kids were always there, and it was just so ugly for me.
Well, part of it too is that, and I think you can find this to be partly true, is that a lot of times Sharon caught this again, and she's getting better at it. There's things in Sharon's mind that she doesn't talk about with me.
That's true.
It could be
Yeah.
like unjustified or not. Like she might be afraid that if I talk to him, not that I'll be mad or be an asshole, but you don't want to hurt my feelings, or I know, how I am. I try not to be negative. I'm just a realist with things, and I don't know, but I'm really working at you guys, like my perspective. I'm still active in my recovery and stuff like that, but. So there was things on Sharon's mind that she didn't talk about. And then Sharon knowing, like, I'm under a great deal of stress. I work 7 days a week. This last week, I actually had 2 days off this weekend. It was the first in a long time, but I'm working my ass off. I don't seem like we're getting anywhere. We're still like treading water. It seems to be. And then Sharon's like, shit, man, why can't Joe be positive and upbeat and try to get me out of this? So that's got to suck for you.
Well, this is what it really
I'm not
was.
always like
no,
that.
guys, like I'm not. I'm really. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm sitting here complaining about Joe. I'm just literally. You guys have been on my entire journey this whole way. You know everything about me, and I'm just. I want to get over this depression and bring you guys along. Because I know I'm not alone in this. Like for Joe, I'll just say like what it really would be with Joe, and he's right. Like that's true. There's sometimes that something bothered me a lot. Right? Like I would be afraid to tell Joe because I was afraid if I told Joe, he would start getting upset about it. And then instead of me having...
Not at you, but like feeling bad.
Yeah, exactly. Like he wouldn't help me solve the problem. Instead, he would agree. And he didn't do this. This is what I was afraid. So in my mind, like what I'm thinking.
Fear.
Yeah, it wasn't, this didn't
False
happen.
is the acronym is false evidence appearing real?
Yeah, exactly. So I would think to myself, because I'm like highly stressed out, right? And I'm like, all right, if I tell Joe, like I want to tell Joe, my instinct is to tell him, but if I tell Joe and then he agrees with me or gets really upset, now I'm not dealing with just the problem I'm afraid of. Now I'm dealing with Joe being upset about the problem, and then I'm already unable to handle the weight of it, and then to have that on top of it.
But it's funny because how it works out, that's why I call it false evidence appearing real, is when you do talk to me about it, like we'll find a solution. Like when you're feeling that way, your emotional thinking gets involved, and like a problem shared is a problem cut in half. So there's a couple things that you brought to the table. I was like, oh, okay, this is not like what it seems.
Yeah, we talked about that a couple days ago, and it did help. And it's not that I lied to Joe, but like I will keep stuff from him intentionally because I'm afraid to tell him.
You're working on it.
Yeah,
I mean,
so it's better now. Like it is better, and that's one of the solutions that I'm going to talk about. So that like is it in a nutshell. All those things together over the last 6 weeks or so has brought me to a point where I have this pit of like horror in my stomach.
Not just that, you guys, but like being a single parent, being responsible for 2 children, not getting any help from the ex, all of the last many years on top of all this stuff, and it can hit you like a ton of bricks sometimes.
It does. And you know, connected to the house, one thing that's a problem, I'm an avid photographer. I'm sure many of you are too. I have a lot of photos on my phone. And if I have an iPhone, you know, sometimes it'll say on this day, like 6 years ago, and it's pictures of the kids or my animals who have passed on, and they're in the house. And I'll oh my gosh, does that share? Oh, that's what color my curtains were. Like, oh, there's this. And I would feel sad because I missed the house. And then I feel like, oh my God, like this horrible thing happened, and then I'll start worrying about the kids and, oh, are they okay? Like, I'm so upset about this. How maybe they're even worse because they're not as mature as I am. So then I felt bad, like guilty as a mother, and it's just horrible. It's like a vicious cycle.
So, were you aware of this at the time? Like, oh my gosh, like I'm feeling this way, and here's why.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good because everything starts with an awareness. Like if you're aware of something and you can bring it to the light, part of like that is talking to somebody else about it. A problem shared is a problem cut in half. So like where do you want to go with this? We know like the things that happen and how you got here. What do you want to talk about?
In the coming weeks, I am determined to get out of this. I'm not going to let myself stay here. I still am here, but what I'm trying to do, like it helped to talk to you the other day. Like we had like a good conversation. His older son is moving out, and I feel bad saying that because it's not like, you know what, today Paris and I are going to tell you this great story that actually helped me feel better today too. But we're going to tell you this great story, and his son was intricately involved in the success of the story, and I felt like that was God. I felt I was so happy that he was there. And it's not, I don't dislike him. I love Joe's kids. You know, I don't know his older son the way I do his younger son. I love his younger son. I've told him this too, as if I gave birth to him myself. Like he is my child. And if I'm out or talking to people, and if I'm at work or whatever, I tell people I have 4 kids. But the connection with his oldest, because of his age, he hasn't been at the house, and yeah.
He's introverted and stuff. He's not a bad kid. But he'll be going within the week, so that's kind of good. Like
Well, the good thing about that is because he's sleeping on the couch, and like I said, Joe and I don't have a bedroom. So like in the middle of the night, like going to the bathroom, or in the morning when I'm trying to take the dogs out, he's like laying there.
Doing your YouTube videos?
Oh, doing the video. I've had to do them in my car because he's where I go. Well, he was near where I went.
Well, the miracle about it is that he's leaving on good terms, and he knew, and he was respectful enough to be like, yeah, I know. I said I was going to stop doing everything, and I didn't. So it's just like, okay. And we could talk about that in another video, but that's kind of good. And then my youngest son is hopefully like he's one step away or two from going into the Army. And it's not like he definitely wants to go. It's just he's got to work through medical records and stuff like that we're waiting on. So that's good. There's like some light at the end of the tunnel.
I just wanted to be careful when I say this because I love his son. And I told Joe the other day, you know, I'm going to be sad when he leaves. I'm like annoyed with the way he's been acting since he graduated, but that happens. I get annoyed with my kids too. But it's just at the same time, I'm going to be sad when he leaves. It's going to break my heart.
He was crazy, but he's crazy about you. Like he was torn because he felt loyalty to his biological mother, because he actually probably feels sorry for him, and he feels guilty. But his love, and he knows like everything. Sharon has done so much for my kids, especially the youngest one, because he lived here. It was just incredible. Things that happened that never would have unless she was here. So she definitely brought color into our lives, and I love you for that.
Oh, thank you. But you know, so they're not bad kids. Like, but these are just some of the things that like weighed on me.
Typical teenage boys.
And I think part of it also, we don't have a room, so I couldn't like go upstairs and close the door. You know what I mean? We have like a little like, what's it called, like a folding
sliding glass, like folding door.
We
have a big like living room. I don't know if it's the living room or it's like a front room of some kind.
It's a big room for our bedroom, but it's in the middle of the house.
It's definitely no privacy in it either. So it's been tough. So one of the things that Sharon mentioned was like, and I've always told this in my recovery, is a problem shared is a problem cut in half. And it's true. Like, it helps to get somebody else's perspective on things. That's why, like, leaving comments, or like if there's any bother you, like, we have support for each other in here. And it sometimes just takes a slight shift of perspective to be like, oh, okay, is it a tragedy or is it an inconvenience? I always ask myself that. Well, I don't, but I should, whenever something's bothering me. And thank God 99% of the time it's an inconvenience and not a tragedy.
I think, like, for me too, if it was just this or just that, it would be okay. But it's everything, you guys.
It was like a perfect storm.
It was. And my brain just feels like hazy. Like, it's a stretch for me to feel good. And I'm determined to break this, though. You know, one thing, you guys, so like the issue with the kids, you know, that's a little bit better. I feel better about the house. I feel more accepting about things that have happened. And, you know, one of the things I try to do is, if something has happened to me, I say all the time, I paid for my kids. I paid for them. Like, I paid for them too, what I went through. They can learn from what the mistakes that I made. And I feel that way about everything, you know? And so I'm trying to be like, you know what? I had this horrible experience. I need to tell you guys, not like literally every problem I have, but what you need to know, like, just to be aware, like, if you are getting a divorce, like, hold on a second.
Yeah, this is an important video too, because Sharon's sharing with all of us. So, honey, like, she keeps on looking at the time because she's worried that the video could be so long. Just lay it out there, man. Stop looking at the watching. People, if they're listening, they love you, and let's keep going. So, talk a little bit more about, like, just, I know that Sharon's relationship with God, we call him Dad, is incredible. I mean, I don't call it prayer, I call it conversations with him, and because we like to have that kind of relationship with him. But I know that you talk to God. I know that you're sharing. What other things are you going to do to, like, I don't know, just get back to that positive state of mind?
Probably the main thing I'm going to do, and so I'll tell you, like, week by week how this goes, is Joe's right. Like,
accountability. Let me throw that in. Like,
yeah.
She's being accountable not only to me but to you guys. Like, you know, hold her accountable. You know, which is a good thing too.
Yeah, definitely. Tell me what works for you guys. For me, I feel like it lifting a little bit. You know, it's still there heavily, but it's lifting a little bit. Today had a lot to do with it. And it's not just today, but the reason today had a lot to do with it was because of God. God is very present in my life, and I feel him. I know he's there. And I felt comfort from him like through these last 6 weeks. Like, I can feel him. I can feel him here with me. So I'm so sorry.
It's okay. This is important.
I'm so sorry, you guys. I can feel him here with me, and he answers my prayers. And today he did something amazing for my daughter and I, and your older son too. And I know he's here. And talking to you the other day, like, I know that I know I can talk to you. It's better in that way. So as I move forward, I'm gonna try to just see God in everything, and just take my life in, like, 24-hour increments. Okay. Because I do really feel that the world is positive, that life is beautiful. I feel blessed to be alive. You know, Joe and I will talk about how we were both married to other people for 20 years, and it was just horrible and a nightmare. Looking at that, though, I don't generally think that way. I mean, I do, but I don't. I feel so blessed that I'm not living that life anymore. And I told Joe, you know, if I had a choice, like, the first half of my life is going to be, like, horrible, and the next half can be beautiful, beautiful and horrible, I'd really prefer the second half. And I told Joe, like, you know, like, in our relationship, you know, both of us have talked about this. We have the best version of each other. You know, I don't know, like, there's so many times I've said to Joe, oh, I want to have a baby with you. Like, you know, like, yeah, things like that I wish we had. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I can still have babies, but I don't want a baby at my age. But I want to have a baby with Joe. And I wish that we could have. And then sometimes I'll get mad and I'll be like, why couldn't that have happened? But then again, and this is why I see God in everything, I always wanted 4 children. I lost 2 babies, so I thought I did have my 4 children, that I had them in that way. Now I have 2 more children, and it's awesome.
You know, I was wanted a daughter, and like Paris is so incredible that I never could have thought like God could create something like that, like just for me. Like it's awesome, you guys. Yeah, I made a promise to Sharon a couple years ago that, see, you guys, for me, pain has always been a motivator. Like I've used it to, like, as a catalyst to go to the gym, to go back to school, to own a business, to work 70 hours a week. And, I promised that I'd try to let love be a motivator. So it's been a difficult path, but I've definitely been willing and have been doing the work to allow that to happen. And Sharon sometimes says, how much do you love me? And I said, I love you enough to change.
He has, like, oh my gosh, you guys, he used to say that occasionally, and I'd be like struck by that because it's so romantic. Well, I think it's romantic. And but anyways, he says that in the last 6 weeks or so when he said that, like every time you say that, I'm like, oh my gosh. Because I do say that. It's not like I'm really questioning how much he loves me. It's just like a thing I say. And oh, you guys, I love when he says that, and he's right. Like that's the truth. But so that's my plan going forward. I'm going to, some of the problems have been taken off me, or I found a way to spin them into a positive way. And I'm really trying to rely on God because I'm going to cry again. I felt him here with me in amazing ways. Like I know he's here. He speaks to me through things that are happening, like in my world every
Sometimes
day.
people, he's like, it's weird because for Sharon and I, we caught this several times. Like God speaks through us, each other. Like I see God in you, or God's talking through you to me and giving me explicit instructions on what to do. Let me ask you this, because I need to do this more often. When I feel this way, I get scared because I think it's going to last forever.
Yeah.
Do you ever look back in the past? Like for me, like my faith is, what do you call that? Like retroactive? Like
Yeah.
I look back in the past, how I know that God got me out of this entanglement that I was in, that he saved me from drugs and alcohol. That I know that. Do you ever look back and be like, you know what? Look at where I was. Well, you do, I guess.
I do. One thing for me, you guys, my life changed drastically on April 21st, 2016. From that, God came into my life in a drastic, major way.
See, I'm jealous. Mine has been, I say, an educational variety, definitely spiritual, but it's taken much longer, and maybe because I could cherish it more because I had to work harder at it.
Yes, it was different for us. Like I didn't call on God. He came and got me, and an obvious, just like it was amazing. My life changed from there. The person that I am today. I hope you can't hear that. That's the dogs. They're saying that the video is too long and they're scratching at the door. But I was a different person before. When I grew up, I was a sad kid. I was a depressed kid. Like I wasn't like a happy child at all. In my early adulthood, I was kind of insecure and things like that. Now, since this has happened, since 2016 happened, my life has been on the up and up, and even bad things that happened, I can see God in it. So God, and I can talk more about that in another video because I know this one's getting long. So I wanted to just say thank you guys for listening. I'm going to keep working on these problems. I'm going to be talking about them. We can mention on the Sharon and Joe Show, or maybe I'll talk about this in other videos. But I'm determined to get out of it. I know I'm going to. I have faith in that. I just hope it happens really soon.
I'll share something with you guys. In my recovery, when I first got sober, my sponsor, because I had a lot of problems, and the first thing he told me was, you better hope the problem is you, because if it's not, you ain't gonna be able to change jack stuff. If it's somebody else, you can't do nothing about it. But if there's a problem and it has to do with you, then there's a chance you could change it.
I agree with that, and I can't. Joe and I talk about our triangle. And we're at the bottom. Joe and I side by side, and at the top is God. That really is an amazing thing for me, and since 2016, like even though I didn't know you then, but I met you later because of it. My life has changed, and I know life is beautiful, and I believe that. It just, right now, everything has been weighing on me. I feel like I have like a big weight on me. It is better. Definitely stay tuned for the video on Make It with Paris, because it is amazing. If you want,
video.
Yeah, the next video. If you want a little hint, go and check out the community page. All right. So, guys, thank you. You know what? I know I don't know everybody, but I love you all. You're really helpful, and you've been with me through everything. And I want to like get this whole thing out. You know, everything connected with it, because a lot of what's been happening is because of the past with a narcissist. So, thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. I will see you with Paris in a day or two, and I hope that everybody has a great 4th of July.
Yeah, stay safe, you guys, too. God bless you, and we will talk to you next week. I'll talk to you next week, but Sharon's got a cool video with Paris coming up soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.